Hello, and welcome to YellaWood Outdoor Building. Ready to build a daybed and start extending your outdoor hours? If so, keep watching. This video will walk you through the steps of constructing a comfortable and sturdy daybed that can be built in 1 or 2 weekends. The daybed fits a twin mattress pad and has built-in magazine and book racks on the sides. The design features notch legs and strong joints that make for a sturdy piece of furniture that will last. The first few steps of constructing the legs are the most difficult, but don't be discouraged by this. All the hard work of making the legs pays off in the end. The rest of the construction is simple and quick. There are 4 main components to the daybed. It has 4 legs, a platform with decking, side planks on the inside and outside, and planks on the back and top to finish it off. Here's a quick look at the major steps that we'll go over. We'll start with the construction of the legs, then move on to the platform and its decking. It's smooth sailing from there as we lay up the side, back, and top planks. Make sure to take proper safety precautions, including always wearing gloves, goggles, and a dust mask when you're cutting or sanding. The first step is getting the right wood, and for this project we'll be using YellaWood Super Select brand lumber from a local YellaWood dealer. While any YellaWood brand lumber would work, YellaWood Super Select products are high grade for a beautiful appearance with few knots. Plus, it's kiln dried after treatment, or KDAT. Because it's KDAT, it's pre-dried, which makes it lighter, stronger, easier to handle, and ready to paint or stain immediately. You'll need these tools to construct the daybed. A dado blade is a preferred tool for leg cutouts, and we'll show you how to use it in tandem with a miter gauge. But don't worry, you can make the cutouts with other tools if you don't have these. Here's the list of supplies you'll need. Be sure to get the companion detailed drawings and steps for this project at yellawood.com/projects. First, let's start with the cutouts on the leg posts. After we use the miter saw, we'll spend most of step 1 on the table saw. Cross-cut the 4 legs from the 4x4 stock. Cut them to a length of 29 inches. For each leg piece, find the best looking face. Label these as right or left and front or back. The legs feature many cutouts that make for clean and strong joinery. For reference, these cutouts can be made by using a variety of different tools and methods, but the most efficient way to make these cutouts is with a dado blade installed on a table saw. We'll be using a dado blade for the video tutorial, and as you'll see, it makes quite a difference in the amount of time spent on the legs. We recommend picking one up at your local hardware store. They're usually under $100. Another way to make these cutouts is to make multiple passes with a standard table saw blade. Also, if you have a sliding miter saw, you can lock the depth of your blade and make multiple passes. Be sure to use a chisel to clear out any chips in the cutout to ensure a good joint can be made. Here's how to effectively cut using the dado blade. We're using a miter gauge to safely cross-cut with the table saw. Our first cutouts are made to fit our 1x4 stock. There are several cutouts of this type on each leg. Cut a scrap piece of 1x4 to act as a depth and joint fitting gauge. Slowly adjust the height of the dado blade until you have an accurate fit. Use a scrap piece of 4x4 to dial in the correct cutting depth, approximately 3/4 of an inch. Once the saw is at the correct depth, you are ready to mark off your cutouts on the legs. Mark your legs for the 1x4 cutouts. There will be deeper 2x4 cutouts in a later step. Typically, the actual width of a 1x4 is 3½ inches, but measure your wood to be accurate. Proceed in making your dado cuts. Advance slowly as you near the marks you've made. This is key to preventing tear out and producing a clean cut. When you're almost finished with the cutout, use your 1x4 scrap to test for a good fit. A good fit slides in easily and is not too tight. For the cutouts that wrap around the leg, use the cut made on one side to guide your next cuts. Cutting in this sequence helps avoid misaligned cutouts. As you finish the 3/4 inch cutouts, test each gap for fit. This will be difficult to modify later. We'll now move on to our final cutouts. These will be made to fit a 2x4. First, slowly adjust the blade to the correct depth. Use a scrap piece of 2x4 to test the depth. Then, mark the final 2x4 cutouts on your leg pieces. Make the 2x4 cutouts slowly to ensure a clean finish, and remember to test the fit before moving on. Take a minute to rest and pat yourself on the back. The hardest part is over. Those cutouts just made the rest of the assembly process easier and the finished daybed stronger. Now on to step 2. This is the first assembly we'll be doing. You'll need the table saw, screws, wood glue, and a drill. You may need a carpenter square and a friend as well to make assembly easier. Now we're ready to construct the main platform. We'll begin by cutting and assembling the frame. Begin by ripping the 2x4s to width. We'll need fresh square edges for the joinery to fit well. Remember to use a push stick to keep your hands clear of the blade. The front and rear beams of the platform frame are notched to allow the decking to sit flush. With both your fence and blade height set to 3/4 of an inch, you can make this cut on the table saw. Once all pieces are cross-cut to the final length, we can move on to assembling the platform frame. On the platform frame, the middle beams should be mounted flush to the bottom of the side 2x4s. Note the dimensions. When using screws, always pre-drill with a countersink bit to a depth just below the wood surface. This is to make sure we don't end up sanding the screw heads during finishing. Use 3-inch galvanized deck screws and glue as fasteners for the assembly of the platform frame. Now begin assembling the frame, making sure the joints are all 90 degrees. Use a clamp if necessary. Next, countersink, glue, and screw the frame pieces together. Wipe any excess glue from closed joints with a damp cloth. Make sure outside edges are flush when assembling the front and rear rails. Once the assembly frame is complete, we can move on to attaching the legs. First, fit the legs to the assembled platform frame. Then countersink, glue, and attach the legs to the inside of the platform frame with 3-inch screws. Use 4 screws per joint when attaching the platform to the legs. As you're attaching the legs, make sure the platform frame is flush with the leg surface. As we mentioned before, we're using YellaWood KDAT because it allows for quicker assembly and less shrinkage. Plus, it's easier to drill into. Now we can move on to installing the decking on the main platform. Cross-cut 1x4s for the decking. The planks should have at least 1/8 of an inch wiggle room. This will allow for the expansion caused by temperature and moisture swings. Next, lay the planks with their best sides face up on the platform frame and install with 1 5/8 inch screws. No glue is needed for the decking. Make them flush with the front of the daybed since there will be some space at the back. Use a scrap piece of 1x4 as a jig to set the 3/4 inch spacing between the planks as you attach them. Start at the front and work your way down the plank. If you want the screws to be in an even grid, you can make the jig double as a spacer. If you choose not to do this, no problem. A mattress pad will cover most of the platform from view. The final plank will need to be rip cut to ensure a proper fit. Measure and cut on the table saw. Now that the platform is complete, we can move on to installing the planks on the sides of the daybed. As you know, things have a tendency to shift and end up out of square. By starting with the top of the side, we can gain the most leverage and position the posts to be as square as possible. We will do this in 2 steps. First, measure the overall distance on the base of the platform. Next, subtract the depth measurement of the 2x4 cutout at the top of the back leg. This will give you an accurate measurement for the top side plank. After cross-cutting, you'll also need to rip these top planks on the table saw. By placing the insert planks with end grain curving toward the middle of the daybed, you can help account for expansion. Clamp both sides of the top plank flush with the sides and attach. Measure the length needed for the remaining inside planks. This should be very close to the measurement of the top rail you just installed. Cut and attach the second and third plank to each side. Before we attach our 4th plank, we'll need to first cut and attach the bottom shelf to it. This will be the bottom of the magazine or storage rack on the outside of the daybed. Refer to the detailed instructions for specific dimensions. Cut the bottom piece and clamp it to the plank. Attach it with a series of 1 5/8 inch screws. Now fit the completed assembly into place. Use a mallet if needed to ensure a flush fit. Attach the assembly to the legs. Now we're ready to finish the sides by attaching the outside planks to the legs. Once attached to the legs, countersink and screw the outside bottom plank to the shelf bottom. Great job on those side planks. Now on to the final step. We can now move to the back of the daybed. We'll install the 4 planks from the top down. First, measure the overall length of the daybed at the level of the platform. We'll use this measurement for the cut length of all 4 back planks. Attach the top plank first. Clamp the plank flush to the leg on both sides and attach with 3-inch screws. Cut the remaining 3 back planks and attach them to the legs with 1 5/8 inch screws. Our final assembly step is to attach the tops of the sides and back. We'll start with the sides. Take a separate measurement of each side length. Cut the arm top pieces and clamp them to the adjacent inner side plank. Attach the top plank with a series of 6 evenly spaced screws to make a tight seam on the inside. Measure the length of the back for the last top plank. Cut the final top piece from 1x4 stock and trim to fit. Attach the top piece with 8 evenly spaced screws. Congratulations! You've just completed your very own outdoor daybed. Now for the finishing touches. Now it's time to sand the daybed. You can use whichever sanding method you prefer. We're using a belt sander and a random orbital. First, sand all joint faces flush. Now, ease all edges. We recommend using 150 and 220 grit sandpaper. Finish with a wipe-on or spray-on weatherproof sealant of your choice. Complete the look of your daybed with a covered twin mattress and durable pillows. For full exposure, use exterior grade textiles. For partial exposure, coat your fabric with Scotchgard. You did it! Now go out and enjoy your daybed. And remember to check back at YellaWood.com/projects for more outdoor project plans.